The Henderson family had been talking about this trip for months. For years they had dreamed of exploring the towering red cliffs, winding canyons, and breathtaking landscapes of Zion National Park in southern Utah. Now with their car packed, snacks stored, and spirits high, they were finally on their way. David, the father, was at the wheel of their SUV, expertly navigating the highway as they left their suburban California home behind. His wife Sarah sat beside him, flipping through a guidebook on Zion, excitedly reading facts about the park aloud. In the early 1900s, it was called Makuntuweep National Monument, she said, looking up. They changed it to Zion in 1919. Sounds like a made-up word, Ethan, their 15-year-old son, said from the back seat, his headphones draped around his neck. Everything sounds made up to you, his younger sister Lily said, rolling her eyes. At 12, she was already an expert in annoying her older brother. David chuckled. Both of you will love it once we get there. It's going to be a trip to remember. With that, they settled in for the long drive. Their first stop along the way was Las Vegas. The city shimmering with neon lights in the desert was a stark contrast to the natural beauty they were headed toward. They weren't planning on staying long, just stretching their legs and grabbing dinner. The family stopped at a diner just off the strip. While waiting for their food, a friendly trucker named Mitch struck up a conversation with them. You folks headed to Zion? He asked after overhearing them. David nodded. Yep, been planning on it for a while. Mitch leaned back in his chair, tipping his cowboy hat up. Y'all in for a real treat, but a word of advice. Watch out for the Narrows. The water can rise fast. Sarah nodded. I read about that. Flash floods, right? Exactly. They can come out of nowhere. He took a sip of his coffee. Other than that, it's paradise. The family thanked him for the tip, finished their dinner, and got back on the road. The sun had set by the time they reached St. George, Utah, where they spent the night in a cozy roadside inn. The next morning, after an early breakfast, they drove the final stretch to Zion. As they neared the entrance, the scenery transformed. Red rock formations, massive sandstone cliffs, and towering plateaus painted the landscape in deep hues of orange and red. Whoa, Ethan muttered, his phone forgotten as he gazed out the window. Sarah grinned. Told you it would be amazing. They parked at the visitor center, loaded up their backpacks with water and snacks, and caught the shuttle into the park. First up, Angel's Landing. I don't know about this, Lily said, staring at the sign warning about the steep drop-offs. It's one of the most famous hikes in the country, David reassured her, and we're only doing it up to Scout Lookout. That seemed to ease her nerves a little. The climb was steep, switchback after switchback, but the higher they got, the more incredible the views became. At Scout Lookout, they paused to take it all in. Look at that valley, Sarah breathed. Ethan snapped a few photos. I gotta admit, this is sick. They rested a bit before heading down. It was just the beginning of their adventures. The next day, they tackled the Narrows, one of the park's most famous slot canyon hikes. All right, guys, David said, pulling on his rented waterproof boots and handing each of them a walking stick. We'll be waiting for the river, so stick together. The towering canyon walls stretched hundreds of feet into the sky, and the Virgin River snaked through it, crystal clear and cool against their legs as they stepped in. This is the coolest hike ever, Lily said, laughing as she splashed her brother. Ethan dodged the water. You're lucky I don't dunk you. As they made their way through the canyon, the walls narrowed, closing in dramatically. The sound of rushing water echoed off the stone, creating an almost otherworldly effect. Then the sky darkened. David checked his watch. That came in fast. A park ranger waded toward them from ahead. Hey folks, storms are rolling in. We're advising everyone to turn back now. Better safe than sorry. David didn't hesitate. You heard him, let's go. They hurried back, the water rising slightly as they moved. By the time they reached safer ground, a light rain had begun to fall. Phew, Sarah exhaled. That could have gone bad. Best hike ever, Ethan declared. Later that evening, as they relaxed at their campsite near the Watchman campground, Ethan heard rustling near their tent. What was that, he whispered. David grabbed a flashlight and scanned the area. A pair of glowing eyes reflected back at them. Oh wow, Lily gasped. A desert bighorn sheep stood nearby, watching them cautiously before trotting off into the brush. Well, that was awesome, Ethan said wide-eyed. Maybe camping isn't so bad. Sarah smiled. Told you, nature is pretty amazing. On their last day, they woke up early to catch the sunrise at Canyon Overlook Trail. The short but stunning hike led them to a perch overlooking Zion Canyon. As the sun rose over the cliffs, the sky turned shades of pink, orange, and gold, bathing the entire valley in a warm glow. This, David said, putting an arm around Sarah, this is why we travel. Lily and Ethan for once didn't argue. They just sat, taking it all in. Thanks for joining us on the open road, where anything can happen and there's always another adventure right around the corner. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the open road.